I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
No time to waste, no time to dawdle. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no time to dawdle. All right, let's get the intro going. So we don't have an overwhelmingly large amount of time today. So with that being said, we're gonna get started. We're gonna move at a brisk pace today. Let's try to get through as much as we possibly can. But before that, let's do the intro. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, politics, and current events. And my chair's a little bit lower than I remember it being. There we go. That's better. Oh, like that a lot more. All right. Yeah, let's get started with it. So as of it looks like 2 hours ago. Yep. 7 a.m. local time on Friday. The first group of hostages over in the Gaza and Israel territory will be released. Let's see. Will be released 4 p.m. local time, which is right. Anyway, let's go take a look at Qatari Minister of Foreign Affairs, shall we? Like I said, we're not wasting time today, folks. We got to go.
Beginning of the pause will be 7 a.m. Friday, the 24th of November, and it will last, of course, as agreed, for 4 days. And the first batch of civilians to be released from Gaza will be around 4 p.m. of the same day.
This is good. This is good.
13
so,
in number.
Since October the 7th, Hamas took, I believe it was 240. Somebody can correct me if they want on the exact number of hostages into Gaza after their attack on the 7th. Israel has been pretty disinterested, as far as I can tell, in the in acquiring or in not acquiring, I guess, in securing the release of those hostages over the last about month and a half now. It looks like we finally have some sort of deal here on the 24th. So this is good. This is good news. We want the hostages released. The main what we are looking for in this conflict is a release to those who are those who are civilians. That's what we are looking for. So a release of the hostages, a cease to the bombing in Gaza, the thousands upon thousands of deaths of Palestinian civilians, and obviously on the Israeli side, a cease to the attacks on their people as well.
All women and children, and those hostages who are from the same families will be put together within the same patch.
CNN's Becky Anderson, who was in that press conference, asked multiple great questions. Becky, I think one of the key ones that you asked was, what happens if one side breaches this agreement? What is the result of that? What stood out to you about the answer from the Qatari official?
It was an interesting answer, wasn't it? He said this has to be a cessation of hostilities completely on both sides, on the ground, and for periods of time in the air. And he made it very clear when asked about drones in the air, surveillance drones in the air. He said specifically during the period of the hostages being released, there would be no surveillance drones flown. And we know, because we've had two, what we might call proof of concept episodes where we've seen two sets of hostages released. Of course, the American mother and her 17-year-old daughter some weeks ago, and then two elderly Israeli citizens. We know that there were drones in the air at the time, and what he suggested is that can be very confusing. It can make people feel that there may be some hostile activity in the air. So certainly during the periods of time when the hostages are being released, the skies will be clear. The airspace over those hostages will be clear. Let's just be very specific, I think, about what we learned today, Caitlin. This truce starts at 7 a.m. local Gaza time. That is 12 or midnight Eastern time. And at some point...
Wow, so this was already, like, going on then, yeah.
After 4 o'clock...
Pretty late last night.
Afternoon, so 9 a.m. Eastern time, we will see the first 13 hostages.
Wait, what happens at 4?
In the afternoon, so Gaza time, that is 12 or midnight Eastern time.
Right.
At some point after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so 9 a.m. Eastern time, we will see the first 13 hostages. The names of those 13 hostages have now been shared with with Mossad on the Israeli side, and the reciprocal arrangement, as it were, the release of Palestinian prisoners into the Palestinians' hands will happen around the same time, although Majid al-Ansari, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here, couldn't say exactly how many hostages would be exchanged. And then after that, every day there will be a list shared with both sides on those who will be released every day at around the same time. So let's assume...
So I don't like that. I mean, that makes me a bit nervous that we're gonna see, like, you know, if there's any kind of delays, that's gonna be excuses for either side to begin conflicts back. You know, if it's like, oh, well, they're not giving us the information that we properly agreed to, So we'll have to keep an eye to see. So far, I haven't heard. I was checking Twitter just a moment ago. So far, I haven't seen anything to give me the impression that anybody has acted in bad faith yet. We'll kind of have to just kind of every day we'll pretty much be watching to make sure that everybody behaves on both sides.
For it to be around 4 o'clock in the afternoon Gazan time for 4 days. That would take us up to effectively 50 hostages, women and children. After that, Majid al-Ansari reminded us that the proposal, the deal includes an opportunity for Hamas to come good on its agreement, and for every 10 extra hostages released, and the understanding is that they are holding as many as sort of 70 to 80, there will be an extra day of this pause, this cessation of hostilities.
Wow.
For this brief period.
You know, they can't say ceasefire, but we've reached some kind of cease to the firing
here today. An important detail, because although we knew that this deal had been agreed to, there were lots and lots of things that were still unclear until we heard from Majid al-Ansari at this press conference today. Caitlin.
Yeah, that was key there, Becky. A sense of optimism that, from the Qataris at least, that this could potentially go on for longer than the planned 4 days. We'll see. Of course, there is a good reason to be skeptical here. We'll see what this looks like once it's actually put into effect. Thank you.
First group of hostages, 13 women and children, be freed at 9. Okay.
Becky Anderson and Kate, obviously, this is the news that so many of these families have been waiting for. That at midnight,
Friday, right? They said 20. Oh, tonight. Okay, so now okay.
Place, and that, based on what we just heard, if everything goes according to plan.
Oh, he did say the 24th. I'm stupid. Okay, yeah. He said the 24th. I keep forgetting it's Thanksgiving and it's the 23rd.
24 hours from now, we will see 13 women and civilian hostages released by Hamas.
Like Thursday, right? Am I crazy?
Caitlin, thank you so much.
God.
And to remind
My sense of
everyone,
time has like been fucked.
This is a big moment that we're looking at right now. As of the news is midnight Tonight, Eastern Time, 7 a.m. local, the truce sets in. 4 p.m. local, 9 a.m. Eastern, around, the hostages will begin to be released.
The 10 p.m. for me.
Israel has confirmed that they have a list in hand of the 13 hostages to be first released. 13 women and children are now just hours away, hopefully, from ending a weeks-long nightmare. Joining us now on this news, finally some more detail that we have gotten.
Okay. All right. Well, that's certainly good. It's good news. It's good news. Like I said, what we're going to be watching for from this point is basically just to make sure that all sides are sticking to their agreements. That'll be the big ask. All right, cool. Let's go take a look. Okay, so does anybody else remember that whole train derailment back in East Palestine, and I believe that was in Ohio, or maybe that was on the Pennsylvania side of that border, in that general region? Do we all remember that? Do we remember the whole, we watched the fucking fallout looking ass cloud start to bubble up and everything? So as shouldn't be shocking to people, this happened again, this time in Livingston, Kentucky. I think it was in Ohio, actually. Yeah, Livingston, Kentucky. Let's see. What is it? Evacuees face Thanksgiving away from home after train derails, spilling chemicals in Kentucky town. Let's go take a look, shall we? Is there? Not really. There's not really sound to this. Whoa. No. Is there not sound? That's weird. Usually there's like a...
The next thing
oh, there it is.
Wham, wham, wham. 3 hard knocks. It's Sandy Singleton, the commissioner of Livingston. And she says, you've got to get out. You've got to go now. It's bad. You're being evacuated.
And I've been unpacking and working and putting stuff away. And I sit down on the couch to rest a little bit. And he comes flying in the house and yells at me. And he says, we got to go. We got to go.
I just cooked everything. It's like, we're having Thanksgiving tomorrow. Guess we're not.
Guess we're not.
But it was just really scary because we don't know how long this is. This could be tonight. It could be 3 weeks. Who knows?
It's like as soon as he opened the back door to come in.
So I want to use this opportunity, this Thanksgiving tragedy here upon these people, to kind of highlight a dynamic, which is a lot of these companies shirk a lot of safety regulations, have no interest in the damage done to the communities. Be assured that the CEO of this company, the manager of that train line, all these people are going home and they're enjoying their Thanksgiving. Sure, they're gonna be, I'm sure they're gonna be working a bit to answer questions and organize a few things, but because of the way that we just simply, I think, don't hold companies to account for this kind of stuff, and the ways that we allow them to skirt regulations is what leads to people missing out on their Thanksgiving, having to rapidly evacuate their homes suddenly. And, companies for the most part don't really have to do anything. Most of the time they do, a few, we'll send Thanksgiving dinner to everybody and da-da-da. And, they do something that might cost them a few dollars, but at the end of the day, they're making quite a lot of money moving all this product through the train lines throughout the country. And when fuck-ups happen, when trains derail, when communities are upheaved by these companies, they do what they think they need to do to save face in the public eye, not to actually pay penance, some kind of, something to the community. Anyway.
And the chemical hit me and I had a real bad asthma attack.
Our homes are empty. People are scared. There's elderly people with oxygen. People needed medicine if they didn't bring it. It's just a scary situation all the way around.
Ugh.
the night before a big holiday.
I just cooked everything. It's like, we're having Thanksgiving tomorrow. Guess we're not.
No one in Rockcastle County planned on spending it in a middle school cafeteria.
We were in our homes. It was quiet. The next thing you hear is wham, 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 3 hard knocks.
Cindy Bradley and her Livingston neighbors were asked to evacuate their homes.
And she says, you've got
And this
to
is
get
how
out.
they
You've
get to
gotta
spend
go
their
now. It's
Thanksgiving.
bad.
She spent Wednesday afternoon at Rockcastle County Middle School waiting to hear exactly
And
what
no
was
internet?
happening.
Fuck
In a
that.
statement, CSX Rail explained at least 15 train cars derailed north of town. 2 of which,
Jesus.
carrying sulfur, had lost some of their contents. Evelyn Gray was home when it happened and says the chemicals triggered an asthma attack.
It just hit me so hard I couldn't hardly breathe.
She says she's better now, but concern is running high among neighbors about what's next.
Our homes are empty. People are scared. There's elderly people with oxygen. People needed medicine. If they didn't bring it, it's just a scary situation all the way around.
Still, people are finding reasons to be thankful.
Ugh, I really hate how our news media does this, where like where you see these like business, you know, these fuck ups, these business, these logistical errors that like wreak terror upon a community. And you know, the fucking news media does its best to be like, but people are finding a way to endure, the enduring spirit of the American people. And it's like, no, don't give me that bullshit. Don't give me that like, oh, you know, but people are coming together. And no, it's such fucking like, it's such blinders on the actual like fucking problem with all of this. Let's take a look at their little response. So Jacksonville, Florida, mind you, not even like in the region, obviously. At approximately 2:23 p.m. today, a CSX train derailed north of Livingston, Kentucky. Preliminary information indicates that at least 16 cars were involved, including 2 molten sulfur cars that have been breached and have lost some of their contents, which is on fire. When molten sulfur burns, it is known to release sulfur dioxide. Specialized equipment is being deployed to conduct air monitoring in the area. CSX is in close contact with the Rockcastle County emergency teams as they continue to assess the situation, and we appreciate their swift response. Like, the community is dealing with this. All of the money that's going to go is all going to come from the community, from taxpayers in the area. We will work together with local authorities and secure the area, and safety is our top priority as we develop a recovery plan. CSX encourages residents in the proximity to the incident who are concerned about their safety to utilize the lodging that the company has secured in Mount Vernon, Kentucky. In addition to the hotels, the CSX team is working with local restaurants and provides meals for affected residents. CSX is covering the cost for both. So keep in mind also, companies know what the cost is going to be when shit like this happens. They are given estimates by, their staff of like, all right, we're transporting this dangerous stuff. How dangerous is this? And they tell them, well, it's this dangerous. If something were to happen, this is how much it would cost us. This is how much it would cost us to lodge the people in the area. How many people are there? This is how much it would cost us for how long we'd have to lodge them. If we want to get them food, the PR, everything. And they all take all of those costs into account, and shit like this happens. And it's just, all right, we had this already sectioned off and ready to go. Like, so this is not something that I think we should pretend or be convinced that, this sort of company and companies like it are being shocked by any of these developments. American freight train operator CSX released a statement following the freight derailment in Livingston, Kentucky. The train consists of 16 cars. 2 cars are also carrying magnesium hydroxide, but CSX says there is no sign that these have been breached, and other cars were either empty or carrying hazardous products like grain. CSX local authorities have recommended the locals evacuate. Thanksgiving dinners will be provided. Spokesperson, CSX and local emergency responders in Rockcastle County, Kentucky, worked through the night in an ongoing effort to extinguish the fire following yesterday's train derailment just north of Livingston, Kentucky. The derailment involved 16 cars. Yeah, we know that part. CSX will be providing. Yeah, we know that part. I just want to see if this article. Okay, no, they had the same information. So, yeah, I mean, look, this sort of this sort of stuff generally, the company is going to pay like some of the liquid cost, but in terms of like health, safety, in terms of long-term costs, that community is going to be paying the price for this. Plain and simple. Is CSX going to cover long-term like diagnostic medicine for people who, breathe in any of that stuff, any of it that not soaked in, but any of it that like housed in the homes as infrastructure? That we've yet to, we've yet to see, but I'm not given too much confidence, to be perfectly honest. All right. So, in the title, you might notice I said more bad news for Biden, which is true. So, Americans during the COVID era back in 2020 and 2021 were treated to a rather, what's the word I'm looking for, generous suite of benefits. Some of them being, we all remember famously the child tax credit, which lifted 40% of kids out of poverty, that we decided we just had no interest in. We chose to put 40% of children back into poverty because, Republicans in this country have no interest in a child's life unless it is within the womb. But that being said, with more benefits that are going to be expiring here soon, basically Americans are going to see those benefits disappear over the next handful of months, which will certainly impact the money coming in for a lot of families, and the ability to continue to pay for basic services to a degree. That being said, the reason why that's bad for Biden, besides being a president overseeing the reduction of benefits to average Americans, there's an election next year. And with this added on top of the, Biden's Israel position, I'm growing concerned that the decisions that the administration is making, or have been making, are really going to galvanize, or if not galvanize, render a lot of voters that Biden's going to need apathetic to his reelection. So let's, whoa, shit, didn't mean to do that. Let's go take a look at this article, shall we? Let's get a little bit of insight. All right, Americans are losing benefits that could hurt Biden in 2024. Yep. A $24 billion emergency support fund for daycare across the country ended October 1st. Oh, it already ended. Lovely. Bringing warnings of rising daycare costs and reduced access. President Joe Biden has just under a year to convince skeptical U.S. voters they're better off financially thanks to him. Widening holes in the country's social safety net could make this task even harder. A string of popular pandemic care support programs have expired this fall, creating so-called benefit cliffs affecting millions of Americans. That coincides with policy changes to traditional welfare programs that are now kicking in, creating potential new hurdles for hundreds of thousands of participants. The Biden administration and Democratic allies in Congress are fighting to restore some of the lapsed benefits when lawmakers take up the 2024 spending bills early next year. But at best, it will be a partial reprieve. The student loan payment moratorium, for example, is gone for good. The collective impact, a cascading set of new financial burdens that are disproportionately affecting women, young people, and people of color. Shocker there, am I right? We only live in a household, me personally at least, where the two people are both young, and one of us is of color and the other is of woman. So isn't that just lovely? A core part of the Democratic electorate. Coming on top of stubbornly high inflation, they risk further undermining the president's pitch that he's rebuilding the economy, quote, from the middle up and bottom out, particularly among voters he needs to turn out in November. That includes millions of student loan borrowers who face the resumption of loan payments on October 1st after a 3.5-year moratorium. A $24 billion emergency support fund for daycares across the country also ended the same day, bringing warnings of rising daycare costs. Oh my goodness. Yes. 1 second. Oh my God. Oh, that's out there. Wait. Is that out there? Okay, so you guys can't hear, but my computer's making a funny noise, but I can't tell if that's my computer. Are you just running the machine in there? Okay. I was making sure that's not my laptop. But we're good. That was just the sound of a hand mixer and not my laptop whinging. All right, where was I? That includes millions of student loan borrowers. Yeah. A $24 billion emergency support fund for daycares. Yeah, okay. In addition, new restrictions on the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, which feeds more than 40 million low-income Americans, started phasing in this fall, putting hundreds of thousands of at risk of losing SNAP benefits, previously known as food stamps. The anti-hunger advocates and anti-hunger advocates are warning that if Congress doesn't include another $1 billion for SNAP for women, infants, and children, known commonly as WIC, in its next funding bill, the program may have to start turning away hundreds of thousands of eligible mothers and babies. Oh, well, that's great. That's just lovely. The Biden administration has pushed to boost funding for these traditional parts of the safety net, as well as secure money to extend some of the temporary social programs created in response to the COVID emergency. In many cases, Biden has been stymied by Republicans and some Democrats in Congress who argue the programs are too expensive and no longer necessary as the pandemic has eased. Keep in mind, like, these people are literally like, look, there's not a national pandemic going on. What the fuck do people have to eat for? Like, well, why does it matter? Shouldn't we just supply food for people no matter what, regardless of if there's a pandemic or not? Republicans, for example, negotiated the end of the payment moratorium as part of the debt ceiling deal. It was the Supreme Court, however, that killed Biden's broader effort to cancel student debt outright. Wait, what? Biden never had a plan to cancel student debt outright. He said as much. He was going to forgive maybe like a couple $1,000s for people. What was it? 10,000, 10 to 20,000. Like, I think it was 20 if you had a specific kind of loan that I can't remember the name of, and 10,000 for everybody else, which is like a fucking drop in the bucket. Like, as a result, the social safety net, which witnessed a historic expansion between 2020 and 2022, is shrinking again. The poverty rate in the U.S. is already rising, according to Census Bureau data, up to 12.4% in 2022 from 7.8% in 2021. Oh, that's great. And that was before the latest round of pandemic assistance expired. Expanding these policies really did have a big impact on economic hardship, said Chloe East, an economist and visiting fellow at the Brookings Institute's Hamilton Project. In an interview rolling them back, she said, quote, has caused a big increase in hardship among American families. Like, keep in mind, all of the rollbacks of these are just it's like, we talked a little bit about this when we covered the Argentina story earlier, where it's like, what is cutting any of these programs? Reducing the benefits that people are going to be getting, what few benefits people get. Like, what is any of that supposedly going to do other than plunge more people into more risky situations, more dire straits? It's like the economy might get better, but unless you have an economy that's geared towards benefiting like the middle class and the lower classes, just because the economy is healthier, it doesn't necessarily mean that better health is going to go to the people it needs to. It could get better, but only better for people sitting at the top brackets. Like here in the U.S., the economy is really strong, but you see a lot of that strength consolidated at the top of the income ladder. So it's kind of like, yeah, we're really top heavy. Like, we're like our strength in terms of an economy isn't distributed fully throughout the country. It's distributed rather top heavy. So like, And that's something Argentina's going to have to be looking out for. The White House, the White House points out that even though the Biden administration didn't succeed in its attempts to make many of the COVID emergency programs permanent, the current status quo is still far better than it was pre-pandemic. That's not really an argument. Because, okay. Do you want to know why that's not an argument? Or why that's or I guess that's why that's like a dog shit garbage, you shouldn't even say it argument? Because who was leading the country pre-pandemic? Trump. So it's like, so it is kind of like, wait, the status quo isn't great, but like it's far better, even though it's not really far better. It is better, certainly. But like most people will be like, wait, so I'm not losing that much, I feel like, when they hear like, oh, it's better than pre-pandemic. It's like, well, it's not really that much better. I mean, maybe a bit, but like if you're telling me my choices are stick with what we have now, which is marginally better, to pre-pandemic, which is Trump era, which was for a lot of people because of the way that Republicans govern, because they do a lot of tax cuts. A lot of people do really well in the short period, but the economy ends up suffering in the long period, which then kind of creates this cyclical pattern where Republicans fucking cut taxes, spend a fuck ton. Everyone loves it, and then Democrats come in and have to balance the budget. Everyone hates it, and it's Republicans throw the party, Democrats clean it up. That's kind of the relationship that they have in terms of the economy. The right comparison to think of really is, how does the social safety net compare to before the president took office, and how do people's economic experience and level of economic security compare to what they were experiencing pre-pandemic? Said the White House official who was granted anonymity. The president has made the social safety net stronger than he found it and believes it should be stronger. Well, that's nice, but again, it comes down to are people's economic experience reflecting that? And if it's not, then it's worthless. The Biden administration did succeed in an example in permanently changing the way SNAP benefits are calculated, increasing the value of the food benefits between $12 and $16 per month in most cases. The president also secured new exemptions from SNAP's work requirements for the homeless, veterans, and young aging out of foster care as part of the spring debt deal. And he used existing student loan forgiveness programs to cancel more than $127 billion in debt for more than 3.6 million student loan borrowers. Yeah, and 3.6. How many people owe? How many, let's find out. How many student loan borrowers are there? 45.3 million. And we solve 3.6. So, yeah. Let's see. And keep in mind, this isn't like canceled all of these 3.6, just 127 billion divided, within 3.6 million people. Biden isn't getting much credit from voters for those and other moves that have permanently expanded social programs, however. In a New York Times and Siena College poll conducted last month, 57% of registered swing state voters said economic issues were the most important factor determining who they will vote for in 2024, but just 19% ranked the current state of the economy as excellent or good. 59% said they trusted former President Donald Trump to do a better job managing the economy, including 53% of people making less than $50K. So this is pretty much dipshits who think he's a businessman. It must be doing better. So we can make that assumption for a lot of them. A group far more likely to use the social safety net. 62% of voters in that financial bracket said the economy was the most important factor in deciding their vote. Political analysts caution that traditional safety net programs are not on their own top of mind for many voters in an election year, but the loss of benefits and any added financial strain it causes is likely to feed into voters' generally gloomy view of the economy. The main effect would come from a generalization of the specific patterns to a general perception that the economy is not doing well. For student loan borrowers, families with children in daycare, and low-income Americans who rely on SNAP or WIC, those effects are just starting to sink in. On October 1st, SNAP, the nation's leading anti-hunger program, began again purging people from its roles for not meeting work requirements. Great. Childcare. Biden administration data shows roughly 8 in 10 licensed U.S. childcare providers tapped the COVID era stabilization funding during the pandemic. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra, was warned that the $24 billion program's termination at the end of September will result in rising childcare costs and cause some providers to close their doors, potentially leaving tens of thousands of children without access to care. White House has asked Congress for $16 billion to extend the program for another year, but Republicans have expressed doubt that any federal fund, particularly for traditional daycare, is the best way to address childcare needs. One potential compromise, a tax package that could incentivize employers to help fill the gap, something groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce favor over additional spending. But many are less skeptical that those provisions could fill the gap as well as additional funds. So keep in mind, okay. My actual opposition to this isn't that I don't think it'll fill the gap. Here's my opposition. For you to not like be saddled with overwhelming and crippling and, you know, like life-ending medical debt, what do you have to do? You have to have a job that provides you health care. You are dependent now on that job to literally survive our medical system. I don't think that you being reliant on corporations is preferable to being able to just afford childcare, right? Like in an ideal world, you would be able to just afford childcare. Childcare would be either subsidized by the government so that everybody has access to it, or it would be, which by the way is through your tax dollars. Like at the end of the day, you're relying on your own tax dollars and your neighbor's tax dollars. Because the alternative is like, oh, well, I work this job, and through this job, I don't suffer crippling medical costs. I get medical care at all, which means I won't die of like a medical issue. And my kids have access to daycare, which I need to be able to go to this job. So like at the end of the day, like what Republicans are constantly doing is trying to get people where they'll say stuff like, you know, we need to get people off of their dependence of the federal government, when in reality what they want to do is push people onto being dependent on their employers. And the problem with that is their employers do not have not just their employees' best interest at hand. There's no buy-in from the employees, right? Like there's no buy-in to any of that. You like the company can decide like, oh, we're going to reduce the amount that we put into healthcare at any point. They're a private corporation. They get to do whatever the fuck they want. If they want to provide you worse care, they'll do it because they can. Whereas in terms of the government doing it, you can vote those fuckers out. You have a say in democracy. You do not have a say in your company if you are just another cog in the wheel. Unless you have a union, of course. But, you know, union representation in this country, while going up, and I'm glad to see it, you know, that's not the same. Union negotiated childcare, all for. But again, that hinges on the prevalence, or I guess existence of a democratic system in the relationship. Student loans, we already know about student loans. Yeah, it's too early to know yet whether the extent student loan borrowers are actually meeting their monthly payments or how they're falling behind. Yeah, okay. But like at the end of the day, that's the thing is, you know, that's kind of how I look at it. You know, these companies don't have to help you. They don't have to provide the same consistent care over multiple years. They can, really at any point, just kind of say, fuck it to the child care and just start reducing how much they put into it till they hit the minimum. And then, you know, how good is your child care that like you're getting provided by your employee, or at least subsidized by your employee, when, you know, you have no control over, you know, how it's run or how it's implemented or how much is put into it. You know, because if you don't feel like they're funding it enough that your child is getting the proper care, well, what are they going to say to you? Get another job. go somewhere else, because that's always their answer. You don't like what we give you, get the fuck out. Like, that's frequently their answer. You don't like it here, you don't like our benefits, you don't like this, it's not good enough for you, get the fuck out. And the world that Republicans want to live in is one where every company gets to say that to everybody, and your choices of good companies dwindle and dwindle and dwindle until nobody has to provide you any decent benefits. Everyone just provides you the barest minimum. It's a race to the bottom. Because when there are no good options, you know, when the only good option for benefits actively hurts whatever company's implementing it, and when I say hurt, I mean it hurts their like ability to pay CEOs and their executives, then yeah, you just won't see improvements to your to those benefits. But either way. All right, let's see. We got 35 minutes. Can we make it through 28 minutes worth of videos? I think it's a possibility. I feel like we're only going to make it through maybe 2 of these, but that's okay.
Daily Wire has a support. The GOP-led House began on Friday to release tens of thousands of hours of video footage from January 6th, 2021.
What? Why did that take 7 seconds? Oh my God, YouTube, what the fuck? Okay. Actually, okay. Let me think about this. Do I want to do the Jan 6 stuff? Ooh, I wouldn't mind doing this Ukraine-Israel thing. We're gonna try to get to everything. We're gonna try to get everything. All right. So Matt Walsh, legendary. Okay. So with the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he has promised to. I remember I saw a video about this on Twitter, I think. He has talked about releasing all of the January 6th footage. I don't even know if that's really a thing he can do. But he has said that he wants to release all of the January 6th footage so that I don't know, people can pick and choose whatever empty hallway, like, you know, 2 minutes of empty hallway that exists in footage and say, this is what actually happened on January 6th. So let's go take a look at a self-described intellectual in Matt Walsh rocking he got a new logo. He's got like it looks like the fucking TVA logo. Like, why does he have the why does he have oh my God. Yeah, like, what it... Yeah, like, why is this his logo? I don't even understand how that's supposed to look. Like, how's that supposed to look like Matt Walsh? Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's going on with Matt. But yeah, like, what is going on here? He must have really liked the second season of Loki, maybe. I don't know. Nah, that show's probably too woke for him, actually. Anyway, continue.
Daily Wire has a support.
Jesus Christ. God damn, dude, you're so fucking loud.
GOP-led House began on Friday to release tens of thousands of hours of video footage from January 6th, 2021, the day of the U.S. Capitol breach to the public.
Yep.
Speaker Mike Johnson, who is less than a month into the job, announced the rolling disclosure of more than 40,000 hours of footage.
By the way, I really love that they cite their own, like, news organization. Like, they'll cite the Daily Wire, even though they're the Daily Wire. So it's just like, you can just say it. It's your own outlet. You don't really, I don't think you really need to cite yourself, guys.
To a website, his office said the footage will not include a small portion of video that may contain sensitive security information or information that could lead to retaliation against private citizens. Johnson said in a post to X, quote, "To restore America's trust and faith in their government, we must have transparency. This is another step towards keeping the promises I made."
Oh, yeah. I think this was the LARP, is that they were like, we need all of the footage to we need to release like a bunch of like uninteresting, like boring footage so that the American people can have trust and faith that I don't know, like January 6th wasn't that bad. I mean, that's all this really was, right? That's all this really is them trying to release as much footage as they can so they can cite, no doubt, cite a number of calm period, you know, like they'll be like, there were X number of minutes of non-violence at the January 6th riots, yet all we hear is how violent this, you know, how violent it was. Or, you know, they'll put a supercut together of all the empty hallways and all the like really like mundane moments that ended up happening, where it's like, oh yeah, people just illegally casually walking through the halls of the Capitol, you know, like, you know, that's because that's all they can do is try to muddy the waters, even though, you know, the American people saw what was going on. You're not going to, like, I'm sorry, but like, where's the picture? You're just, no. Where is it? Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but you're not, whoa, what the fuck was that? How the fuck did I do that? Okay. Don't know how I did that. Oh my God, that's like the smallest fucking picture ever. What the hell? Was that real? That can't be real. That has to be Photoshopped. I'm trying to find the one. What the fuck is this? Oh, is it like ups? Oh, no. It's from, okay. It's a top down view. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but no, you're not tricking people into forgetting what this looked like. Like, I'm sorry. There is no amount of like casual people walking around, you know, for a few minutes to make Americans go, oh yeah, this guy totally wasn't there. You know, this totally didn't fucking happen. Like, you would have to do a lot to convince people that they didn't see all of this on national television. January 6th was like probably not as bad as Charlottesville, because Charlottesville was a bunch of Nazis, but like this was not good for the Republican Party and for the conservative movement broadly. It's why they've tried so hard to shift the goalpost and to just generally try to like dodge with this one. Why they try to like obfuscate and pretend that like, oh no, it was a peaceful rally. The peaceful rally. You know, you got this lovely person up here fucking raising looks like a fucking police riot helmet. You know, you have all this guy throwing up gang signs, I guess, or something. These people trying to parkour their way up there. Like, I'm sorry, but good luck. Yeah. These guys breaking into the window. Like, good luck with that, fellas. There we go.
I was elected to be your speaker. Some Republican lawmakers and others have long pressed for the release of security footage of the day when a crowd of people entered the U.S. Capitol.
What is going on with this logo?
But of course, those up until now, people urging for that disclosure have been rebuffed, and now it's all being made public. Now, over the weekend, a bunch of previously unreleased videos started circulating on social media. Well, on Twitter at least. If Twitter didn't exist, or if Elon Musk didn't own it, then we could be pretty sure that these videos we would not see, which is like another.
Well, if they weren't officially released, then yeah, they'd probably get taken down because they're evidence in an investigation. So yeah, that would be like that would be posting like like that would be posting like documentation that like the government hasn't deemed to the public yet. So yeah, but I mean, if the speaker of the House is like, I'm officially releasing this, even under the old leadership of Twitter, they would have kept it up, because there's no actual like legal reason to take it down. Like it can stay up. It's been sanctioned by the government to be distributed to the public.
Big reason why it's emblematic of the reason why the left wants to destroy Elon Musk.
Right.
We'll take a look at one of the, I swear. There's a couple of videos we'll take a look at. Here's one where we could see it's just basically a stream of people kind of casually
Yep.
walking down the hallway. Let's take a look at that
Turns
briefly.
to cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Do you remember? Okay.
Okay. And the people are just
Do you remember what one of the criticisms were at the time of this happening? Do you remember what one of the criticisms were? It was that the police were pretty apathetic, or at the very least the police were, I mean, there was criticism that the police weren't prepared for this, but there were also criticisms that the police just kind of let them in. Like, we all seen that video of like the cops opening the gate to let these MAGA chuds in. And the reason being they weren't prepared because they didn't take it seriously, because let's be honest, the institution of the police are in favor of these kinds of guys. Like, the police as like an institution is MAGA. So when they see this, they know that they don't, like, if they get the go ahead to step to the side, they will, because that's what they already wanted to do. And like, keep in mind, they weren't really prepared for this. So the argument was, we either fight these people and probably begin like violent, like really violently like interacting with these people, which, keep in mind, they would do if this was BLM. There wouldn't even be a hesitation. We saw what happened when a BLM riot showed up to the Capitol. We saw the fucking stormtrooper outfits that they got. So they're capable of committing and participating in violence against protests and against rioters. They just choose not to in this case. Not because it's not a threat, it's because they don't really have a problem with it.
You can see them just walking casually down the hallway. They've got their flags.
What did I say? They would show a bunch of footage of people being
there,
calm, and they'd say, see,
they're filming.
You know, the videos of police clashing with protesters
very casual.
Couldn't possibly have happened. All of that was a
And
side.
that's a video. And there's a lot of videos like that.
Yeah. It's called surveillance
There's
footage
one
of
other,
an
before
entire
we talk
building.
about this, there's one other one to show. This one, you can see it's a protester is
What's also really funny to me is people like Matt Walsh will hyper focus on one act of violence during a protest during like the George Floyd protest. They would zero in on like a Target being burned down or like somebody being violent, and they would identify the entire protest that might be happening across hundreds of miles, like an entire city, and characterize it by what is happening on one square block. Meanwhile, we're talking about one building, a fairly large building. The Capitol is not a small building. We're talking about one building. If you go to another entrance, the cops got the word, just let them in, like, we don't want to cause more violence. And Matt Walsh will point to that and say, see, the violent part of this protest of this demonstration you shouldn't even be concerned with that. That is invalidated by the fact that we found peaceful protests, as opposed to the opposite during the George Floyd protests, where if they can find one act of violence in an entire city of protesting, they will say the entire city's protest is violence. Whereas if they can find one act of peaceful, again, I mean illegal, like at the end of the day, illegal trespassing onto federal property, if they can find a few peaceful people in this one building, the people on the other side of the building, not the other side of the city, the other side of the building, are exempt from criticism. Like, that's this is the sort of thing where it lays bare and obvious what his criticism is, which is, or what his position is, I should say, which is, when white people riot, it's good, and when black people riot, it's bad. We should shoot rioters when they're black. We should escort them when they're white. That is Matt Walsh's, at the end of the day, position on all of this.
Being let out in handcuffs, but then the handcuffs are taken off, and he fist bumps the officer and walks away. Let's watch that one.
Yeah. Again, these are all, like, what's funny is Matt Walsh is making,
there he is in the cuffs,
no different of a criticism than we have been
Here's
during the
wearing some
time
kind
of the actual riot. That
motorcycle helmet or something.
Yeah, because what did we say? We said that the cops weren't taking these guys seriously. They weren't approaching these guys like they were as if they were rioters. They were treating them like they were good old boys. And again, that's not a mistake. That's by design.
They take the handcuffs off. He fist bumps the guy. And then that's it.
It's almost
give him his
like
bag back.
police don't enforce.
And he walks
It's
away.
almost like police don't really enforce the
Correct.
law to the same
So,
extent when it's white people.
what do we make of
Thank you
this?
for making that point.
Well, there's a reason why it took them almost 3 years to release this footage.
Uh-huh.
That's one thing we can learn from it. There was never any good, legitimate reason to not release it. I'll make the same argument I did with the
Well, we already have footage of something very similar. So what would be the difference? We have that video of like the cop like dapping up one of the protesters. We already have video of that. It was like body cam footage, I think. Or maybe it was footage from the rioter, I forget. But like, what information does this elucidate for us? It doesn't do anything. We already knew that the cops treated these guys with a lot of reverence and assistance. So what's the problem here? Like, I don't think Matt understands the point he's making. The reason why this kind of video wasn't released to the public wasn't because this hurts the case for January 6th and the issues of that day. It helps the argument, especially the leftist argument, that police are at the very least like mildly aligned with the far right on this issue.
The Covenant Shooter Manifesto. It is not the
What does that have
government's
to do with
job to
anything?
decide with the any good, legitimate reason to not release it. I'll make the same argument I did with the Covenant Shooter Manifesto.
We haven't gotten the
It is
manifesto.
not the government's job to decide what information we need to be told.
Well, first of all, the Covenant Shooter, the manifesto wasn't released. It was 3 pages that told us absolutely nothing. And as far as I've been told, as far as I can ever find, the police did their investigation and they didn't really find much of a motive besides that person was deranged. Like, but, just a crazy person who got a hold of firearms isn't really that interesting to the right. It's why they've obsessed over the fact that they were trans, because they want the answer to be because they're trans or because they have some kind of woke motivation. But in actuality, when the police do the investigation, when we see some select pages, possibly the best pages for the argument that they want to make by Steven Crowder, what does it tell us? That the person was insane. There was nothing in any of those that like would lead anybody to believe like, oh yeah, this had anything to do with being trans or being, I think like, what was it? Didn't they say they were like hateful towards Christians? No, they just were a psychopath, which, I mean, psychopaths do live among us, but that's not as potent of a story for the right wing.
And we are very accustomed
always
to the
gives a lot of power to the
government
police.
assuming that job that we almost
Absolutely
would
correct.
think.
And what Matt doesn't understand is that he's making that argument.
This is
It's
one of
like
the government's
he's
fundamental
validating that
jobs, 'cause it's our
argument
entire
that the
lives.
police
This is how this has been
shirk their
primary
duty when it's the
function, is
right
to,
wing.
Figure out what information we should be told, suppress information. This is not the government's job. Transparency should be the rule, not the exception. Unless it's a case.
Unless it's a case.
Actual
Here's the
clear-cut
caveat.
case of national security or some other rare exception. We should just be told everything. And this is especially true because even if I agreed that the state should or would be justified in withholding information from us because they don't want us to draw politically inconvenient conclusions, which of course I don't agree with that. But if I did, people will draw those conclusions if you don't tell them everything. And in this case, whatever they were worried about people thinking.
Well, Matt, you're like a news pundit. You're a political commentator. You like me and this idiot have the exact same job, sadly. He just gets paid a lot more because he does a lot less thinking. But yeah, my dude, like the whole point is for you as the like commentator to be judicious with your commentary. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned this earlier. This is the response that the police in DC had to BLM. So the idea that like the idea that Matt Walsh shows footage of the police escorting and standing to the side while protesters broke the law by storming a federal building, all of that illegal. They are breaking the law directly in front of the police. They did nothing. Like this all just continues to double down and triple down and prove the argument that the police have no interest in enforcing the law when it's the right wing. The right wing will cry and bitch and moan and pretend that they're the oppressed class, that their voices are the ones that are unheard, that they are the ones who are unfairly treated by the system. When in fact, their entire political movement is one bolstered and defended by the police, by the institutions that are supposed to protect everybody, but they don't. So let's keep that in mind. Matt Walsh thinks he's making a point. I don't know what point he thinks he's making, but all he really is validating the argument that the left has been making for quite a long time. So good job, leftist Matthew.
About January 6th, we already thought it because they wouldn't show us the tapes.
Thought what?
And now we see it. It only confirms what we already assumed.
What did you assume?
We're facing the threat of a potential government shutdown.
Wait. What was the assumption? That... Because their assumption and their whole thing has always been January 6th wasn't a big deal. But if they're going to look at the police response, all of us turn around and go, yeah, no shit. We said that day of, that where the police. It's almost like their response was like non-existent when it's white people. Yeah.
That's Walsh.
It's almost like this thing called systemic racism.
So by their own logic, whatever they're trying to do, it's self-defeating. And so then what was January 6th?
Uh-huh.
You can see in all these videos, it obviously was not an insurrection. It was not a terrorist attack. It is not a tragedy on the level of 9/11.
I mean, it definitely wasn't an insurrection. It was an attempt at an insurrection, a dumb one by dipshits who watch you, but yeah. It wasn't, I mean, I would say it was a terrorist attack, yeah. I don't think it was like, it wasn't 9/11. Like, what, a couple people died? Like, at least on the MAGA side, I know there's like that Ashley Babbitt bitch, but like, otherwise, I don't remember if there's any other names. I think she's the main martyr, which, is it shocking that the police of all people shot the woman? No, maybe, but. It
did not warrant 3 years of hearings and trials and theatrical productions, not to mention that in some cases, you got decades and decades of prison time. Didn't warrant all that. It was something that in many cases was mild enough that lots of these people clearly didn't even think they were breaking any laws.
That's not how law works, Matthew.
Walking casually.
That's not how law works, you fucking idiot. Oh my God. Like this guy is such a fucking, like, he's so bad at this, right? Like, I don't know if it's just like recently that he's gotten really bad at it, but like, holy shit, how do you, with a straight face, go, these people didn't understand they were breaking the law and we shouldn't hold them? Since when the fuck is that how we enforce laws, Matthew? Since when has this guy ever defended anybody at all, let alone a person of color, let alone a person who wasn't a conservative white person? When has he ever gone, look, guys, they didn't know the law. Like, we can't prosecute people for if they don't know the laws. Like, we can't do that. That's wrong. Like, what the fuck is this? And this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. Like he's tried to make some pretty shit arguments in his life. This has to be the worst one. The fact that he shows that little 2-second clip of what, some people walking down the street, he believes that is somehow a defeater to, I'm not even going to show footage. To show footage would be like acknowledging like too much of this argument. Go Google January 6th riot. I promise you will find ample footage of people not just casually walking. Because at the end of the day, the 360-degree view of that event is some people went in some doors after a point and got to walk in casually. But before they could do that, before those people could walk, the rest of those fuckers at the front door had to run and break through that fucking glass, and homegirl had to get shot, and the police knew at that point that they needed to quell the crowd by being, let's be honest, friendly to them like they always wanted to be, and to escort them out calmly. That's why at the end of that, you see like that one cop helping people down the stairs and being really nice and everything else. Because at the end of the day, the police on that day showed their asses for what they are, which is, what's the word I'm looking for? Part of me leans towards treasonous. Part of me leans towards turncoats. Part of me just wants to say fascists, most likely. But overall, at the end of the day, the police are MAGA. That is what they are. And until we do investigations on every fucking police department in this country, they will continue to be filled with guys like Matt Walsh. And morons like Ashley Babbitt.
By these police officers in the hallway. If you think that you're breaking a law, that's not how you would conduct yourself.
Because they don't think they were breaking laws because they believe they're above
I saw people
the law.
Just being led into the Capitol building and allowed to walk around while cops stand there and watch and give them fist bumps. And also, if I was extremely naive,
so is it the cops'
if
fault?
all those things were true, I would probably assume that, okay, I guess we're allowed to do this. Now, I'm not naive, so I would have known, as I did on the day when this was happening and said so, that these people are walking.
I love Matt Walsh being like, if I was a fucking idiot, but I'm not an idiot, so I wouldn't have done that.
Walking into a trap. They're walking into something that's going to destroy their lives.
They're not. They're
But
walking
for a lot of
into,
these people,
like, they wanted
as
into the
videos
building.
clearly show,
They got access to the building.
Their crime was naivete. They
also,
that was it.
Keep in mind how many people were there compared to how many people were actually arrested. Like, again, if that was a Black Lives Matter protest, there wouldn't even be arrests. There'd be death. People would have been shot. Tear gas, rubber bullets, everything, all of it.
For a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And whatever else you want to say about it, to call this an insurrection,
it was an attempt.
Is just ridiculous. Like, what insurrection in history could have ever been confused with a guided tour like this one? If I showed you...
Well, one where the police force is sympathetic to the protesting to the insurrectionist force. That's the one. It's kind of obvious. It, like, again, you showed evidence of it, my friend.
That video,
like, again, the standard
context
for what is insurrection for him, it has to be like
going on a guided tour of the Capitol.
You know, the War of 1812 or whatever.
You saw these. Okay, yeah, well, it's a big group of people. It's a little weird they have flags that they're carrying, but
it's a little weird that they have incredibly political flags.
That is what I.
And they're like storming.
Give me another example of an
storming the front with like a bunch of.
You could pull like hundreds of hours of video of the insurrection happening.
Right, because that's how cameras work. Every camera was on for 20. He does understand how cameras work, right? Like, every camera in that building was on for 24 hours. Are on 24 hours a day, meaning that for like every camera, you probably have thousands of hours of footage. Does he know how cameras work?
Use it with a guided tour of a government building.
Right, it wasn't,
because that's what a lot of this looked like.
Was there a tour guide, or was there police trying to get people to not break shit?
And so, obviously, what we're being told about it is absurd.
Right. And the answer is to go to Matt Walsh's channel and watch a video where people are allowed to, commit trespassing. And, I'm sure Matt Walsh's, like, defeat or answer to that is like, how can it be trespassing if it's taxpayer dollars? Which is like, that is not how that works. Do I get to walk into any police precinct because I pay the taxes in the area? No, that's not how it works. But yeah, lovely. Well, that was, wow. What a fucking moron. Jesus. Okay. 8 minutes. How long did I spend on that? That was also 8 minutes. I spent like 20 on that. I don't think we can do the other ones. Okay. We are going to save these two videos. We're going to save this Ukraine and Israel comparison video by Ben Shapiro for Sunday. I want to try. Fuck. I just remembered. We have a dinner. Damn it. But I want to try to do these either Sunday or Monday. We'll either go really long Monday, or just long. We'll either go long Monday, or I'll try to do a small thing on Sunday. Like a just an all segment stream on Sunday. But anyway, if you enjoyed any of what you saw, I actually got to get going. We gotta, it's like 2:00 here now, so got to get ready and go do go do the Thanksgiving stuff. I mean, I don't even get to eat Thanksgiving. I'm going basically for the preliminary Thanksgiving gathering, and then I'm going straight to work. So it's a work night for me, but such is life sometimes. But either way, if you enjoyed anything that you saw, if you learned anything, if you got some catharsis, if you just want to help out me and the channel, it always helps hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Always helps hit the follow button on Twitch. I do this every Monday and Wednesday, trying to get back into the schedule. I have a new schedule, so it's just been tough. But yeah, I'll see everybody then. We'll, see you all then. Yeah.